What are you doing at Hong Kong University?
Well, I'm teaching new media, which it's hard to define exactly, but it basically means the intersection between the internet and journalism, and what young people who want to become journalists need to understand about how the internet is changing the profession, how to use the internet to have conversations with the public in new ways, how to involve the public in journalism, and also just to understand the technology in terms of how do you tell stories on the web in new ways, and how do you really teach yourself to learn? How do you teach yourself to really come up with hacks? Because a lot of people are going into news organizations, and the news organizations are trying to figure out how to adapt to the digital age. The older generation oftentimes isn't quite sure what to do, and they're often hiring the younger people to start the newspaper's blog or to help them work on new services. And you can't just say, okay, you need to know these programs, and you need to know Dreamweaver, and you need to know how to use WordPress, and you need to understand how to use an RSS reader, and then you're good to go in your job as a journalist. It's more about thinking about how to teach yourself what are some of the new tools, and how to build things in new ways, and how to innovate, and how to help a news organization innovate, or if you're a freelancer working on your own, how to build credibility and get your name out there as an individual, and how you can build impact as a journalist, as an individual with the web in ways that weren't possible.
Where do you see Hong Kong today in terms of its use, consumers' usage of web-based media?
Yeah. Well, Hong Kong does seem to be a bit behind mainland China and Taiwan in terms of the Web 2.0 phenomenon. There's quite a bit of blogging, but it's all very personal. There's a small and growing group of people who are blogging about larger events, but it's still quite small. I think companies here are very early on in terms of thinking about how they need to engage with the public on the web. News organizations here, because their newspapers are doing quite well just with traditional media here, and TV stations and so on, there hasn't been the same kind of crisis that you have, say, in the United States, in terms of needing to rethink the model. And you don't have the same kind of thing that you have in mainland China, where nobody trusts the mainstream media, and that there's no really, TV isn't any good in China anyway, and the newspapers and magazines aren't that great anyway. So the emergence of digital media and citizen media in China, user-created media, is very attractive as an alternative to the public. But here there's so much media saturation that I think it's harder to get people to change their habits. There's so much entertainment. There's so many media products and so on. So I think that's probably one reason why it's a little bit behind here. But people are starting to think about different changes, thinking about how the internet is impacting their businesses, and certainly there are growing numbers of just members of the public who are talking online and who have things to say that you're not going to see in the mainstream press, or who are creating creative works that are not in the commercial media here, that are starting to have an impact. And so increasingly the traditional industries are needing to figure out how to deal with that. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves, and it's exciting to be in the middle of it, and also to be on China's doorstep. And we have a lot of mainland Chinese students at Hong Kong University. And so it's a really unique opportunity to work with them in terms of thinking about what is the role of the journalist in China going forward, and what kind of skills, what kinds of modes of thinking will serve them best and help serve their country best, in a broader sense, if they want to be effective journalists in China and make a real difference. This is one training ground where we can, because it's Hong Kong, we can think a little bit more creatively and not have people too worried about what we're saying and so on. So it's a very interesting opportunity.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.